Good morning and welcome to all the participants to our workshop today, which is entitled The Forest Certification Practices and Timber Legality Assurance System, in short, TILAS, Implementation in Malaysia. This is our first time that we are conducting our training online. And we are very happy to have a total of 217 registered participants to our training today. And we are very happy to have Mr. Yong Teng Kun, which is the CEO to MTCC, to be the moderator of the session. And we're also very happy to have 4 panelists with us today, which is Siti Shaliza from MTCC, which she will be talking about the Malaysian Timber Certification Scheme. And then we also have Amy Sharina from MTIB, which is the Malaysian Timber Industry Board, that she will be sharing with us about the Peninsular Malaysia TILAS. And we are also very happy to have Mr. Ricky from the Forest Department of Sarawak to share with us about forest certification and Sarawak timber legality verification systems. And finally, we are also very happy to have Mr. Musa to talk about forest certification practices and Sabah TILAS, which he is the head of Sustainable Forest Management Division in Sabah Forestry Department. All right, let's move on. Okay, before we start the training, I'll provide a little bit background of the projects that are supporting this training. So as you can see here, the title of the project is called it's an EU-funded regional project, and it's to strengthen non-state actor involvement in forest governance in Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, and the Papua New Guinea. And the session that we're going to have today is for the Forest Governance Zonal Workshop, which for our particular session today is talking about forest certification practices and timber legality assurance system implementation in Malaysia. All right, and to introduce the project, so as you can see on the screen now with you is that the project aims to address 4 core focus, which is the capacity building, transparency, accessibility to information, and also forest policy advocacy. So it aims to build the capacity of our stakeholders, especially non-state actors. In this case is stakeholders other than the government agencies, to monitor the use of forest resources, forest condition, and its carbon stock. And it also aims to engage effectively with local authorities and national decision makers, because we are very much aware that the forest governance in Malaysia is monitored and is regulated by our governmental agencies. So that's why that the government agencies are also sitting in alongside with other non-state actors in the National Stakeholders Committee that's set up under this project. So thirdly, the project is also aimed to allow or encourage more participations in forest management and also land use planning processes, and of course to inform and influence forest policy processes after all of us are well aware and able to understand much better about what is forest governance as a whole. And it also aims to increase transparency, accessibility to information, and accountability in forest management and conservation. And lastly, it also aims to create viable, constructive, and sustainable network of well-informed non-state actors. So as a whole, if you can see here from the screen that with the meetings that we have with all our members in our National Stakeholders Committee members, National Stakeholders Committee, we aim to achieve more Malaysians, non-state actors in particularly, which they are being empowered, and then they are able to engage and be engaged in the forest or forestry related policies and monitoring. And it also supports They are also able to support the implementation of Malaysia national biodiversity and forest policies, and also fosters closer working relationship with the government agencies and related forest/timber stakeholders. So in short, the project is a capacity building project, and it focuses on forest governance, and it aims to achieve and to empower non-state actors in the four main core, which is the capacity building, transparency, accessibility to information sharing. The third, networking, and also lastly will be forest policy advocacy. So forest certification, as you can see, for today's workshop is part of the capacity building element. All right, let's move on. So I would like to introduce a bit background of our moderator today, which is Mr. Yong. So Mr. Yong, as the moderator to our session today, is the current CEO of Malaysian Timber Certification Council. So Mr. Yong joined the MTCC in November 2001 as manager in charge of forest management certification. He was promoted to senior manager in forest management in September 2006 and assumed the role as the CEO on 1st January 2013. So prior to joining MTCC, Mr. Yong worked with the Forestry Department of Peninsular Malaysia for 17 years, from October 1984 to October 2001. So Mr. Yong holds a bachelor degree on forestry from UPM and a master degree in forest management from University of British Columbia, Canada in 1996. So without further ado, I would like to pass the floor to Mr. Yong to carry on with the training. Over to you, Mr. Yong.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lee, for the kind introduction. A very good morning to all participants to this Forest Governance Zonal Workshop. I hope everyone is keeping themselves safe, living in the new normal amidst the pandemic. I think life has never been the same. I think for us, never think that we would actually have to live through this pandemic. But nonetheless, I think, hope that everybody is keeping well. I would like to thank the Malaysian Nature Society for the trust given to me to moderate the workshop this morning. Now, as you're aware, we are only given 2 hours for this webinar. So I think I would want to go straight to the point. With that, I would like to introduce our first panelists, Ms. Siti Shariza Mustafa. She is a Senior Manager for Forest Management at the MTCC. Siti has 20 years of experience in international timber trade, policies and market requirements, forest certification and stakeholder management. She is responsible in overseeing the development of forest management certification standards and implementation of the Forest Management Certification Program under the Malaysian Timber Certification Scheme, or MTCS, that we have started implementing since 2012. She holds a master's degree in strategic leadership towards sustainability from Sweden and a bachelor's degree in applied science from USM. So with that, I would like to invite Siti, and I would like to emphasize to her, she has 20 minutes. And I will start reminding her when she has 5 minutes left in terms of her presentation. Thank you. Can we now invite Siti to join us in the session?
Okay. Alamak, where's my Zoom? Start video. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Assalamualaikum. Thank you, Mr. Yong. Maybe I would like to take this opportunity to wish Mr. Yong a happy birthday. It's his birthday today, so I wish him all the best and may he has a happy and healthy long life. So I will proceed with with the first presentation for this morning. I will provide some background and information about the Malaysian Timber Certification Scheme. So to start, The clicker is not working. Okay, sorry. So to start, I will give a bit of a background about how forest certification emerged. I think most of you are aware, but if there are participants who are young and who were not born yet during the 80s or 90s, that was a time when the concerns for forest degradation and deforestation was really high at the time. There was a lot of development happening all over the world, so concerns are really high in the 1980s and 1990s. And there was a campaign for ban and boycotts on the use of tropical timber. And for Malaysia being, an export-oriented, timber export-oriented, country, and we rely a lot on the export of timber. So this affected the country in terms of the economic, what do you call that? Contribution of the industry to the country. At the same time, the world realized that the ban and boycott of buying tropical from buying tropical timber, the world realized that it was counterproductive, because then the forest land would then converted into other users, into agriculture land and things like that. So it did not help, with having this ban on buying tropical timber. So in Rio in 1992, there was a discussion on the need to balance development with due care for the environment, and the concept of sustainable forest management was then globally agreed. And there was also discussions on the need to demonstrate the implementation of SFM with ground implementation, and this implementation of sustainable forest management needs also to be assessed. And processes for criteria and indicators for SFM were developed. You would probably have heard about the ITTO CNI, the International Tropical Timber Organization criteria and indicators. That's for the tropical countries, and you have the ATO, ITTO PCNI, that's basically for the African region. You have the Tarapoto process for the Amazon. There's a pan-European criteria and indicators for Europe, and also the Montreal process for the North America, basically. So all over the world, people are talking about having the criteria and indicators for sustainable forest management. At the same time, there was also this need for transparency, and globally people are talking about, you need to show us, you need to show proof that you actually do implement SFM. So then independent international and national certification schemes were then developed at the time, in the early 1990s. The FSC was developed in 1994, if I'm not mistaken, and PFC came slightly later in 1999. There is also the national standards. All over the world, people are developing. The concerned people on SFM and forestry are developing CNIs and standards on sustainable forest management. So these standards involve assessment of forest management, and as well as verification by independent third-party assessors. So that also increasingly then, over the years, there were also increase in market demands and regulations. Basically a lot of people were having, the industry were having difficulty selling timber if it's not certified. And along the line, there was also these new regulations were being introduced, a stricter regulation on the import of timber into the concern of mostly the developed countries. So increasingly this certification and some sort of third-party verification of sustainability and legality were becoming more important for the timber market. And so I come to that's the background of the emergence of forest timber certification, and MTCC was then developed as the national timber certification body, basically, as an independent and non-profit organization to implement the certification scheme for the country. MTCC was established in 1999 as a follow-up from the decision of the meeting of the National Forestry Council in 1997. So it was basically also the, from the decision by the government that there needs to be, an independent body to look into and to help encourage, promote the implementation of SFM, and also help the industry as well. So it's a two-pronged approach. Basically, you promote the implementation of SFM through a market link tool with having certification that provides the independent verification of sustainability. So this is our new vision and mission. Basically, we want to see a nation that appreciates and internalizes the full value and contribution of forests towards global sustainability. So we are not only looking at timber industry, as something that we have been told that we are only working for the industry. No, we are not. Basically, we are looking at SFM and forestry, and we want to see that SFM is embraced, and the entire value of the forest is appreciated. So it's not, we're not looking at the forest only for the trees. So it's the entire as an entire ecosystem, basically. So MTCC is governed by the MTCC Board of Trustees. As you can see, this is why we call ourselves, we can claim ourselves as being independent, because we are governed by a multi-stakeholder board. Our board, it consists of representatives from the academic or research institutions, relevant government agency, to make sure that the policy of the country is also taken into account in our activities. Representatives from the environment. We have Dr. Prof. Ahmad Ismail from MNS, the president of MNS, on our board. So we are happy to have him contributing to the work of MTCC. Datuk Haji Zaini from Sabah Wetlands Conservation Society. I'm sorry I don't mention everyone's name there, but you have the idea that we are governed by a multi-stakeholder board, basically, with a social NGOs representing the workers' union, the indigenous people, including, of course, the economic part of it. We have representatives also from the industry. So these are our main activities. Basically, we as the national governing body for the implementation of MTCS, we process applications for notification of CBs. That's quite technical. Basically, we enlist the CB that are qualified to conduct audit on for forest management and for chain of custody. So we also issue logo usage license in terms of using the PFC logo and MTCC logo. So that is in our responsibility. We liaise with the accreditation body and certification bodies in making sure that the running of the system is smooth. We also have procedures for investigation and resolution of disputes, complaints, and appeals, which are mainly related to the scheme itself. So I will go further on the institutional arrangement, just to explain further on this dispute resolutions system that we have in the scheme. So we also support standard setting process and the periodic reviews. You may know that our forest management standard is developed through multi-stakeholder consultation by MTCC, facilitated by MTCC, and whereas for COC, that's developed by PFC. So, but in the development of the national standard, then we facilitate the process. So that's one of the core activities that we conduct. Other than that, we also conduct awareness creation, capacity building. We conduct training for auditors, technical briefing to forest management units and companies. We also conduct a lot of engagement with all the different stakeholders. We collaborate with other local, regional, and international partners in making sure that all our vision is our mission to ensure that SFM is implemented. So we also need support and collaboration with other partners. is, of course, we need to be able to make sure that our logo is recognized. We need to make sure that the market accepts and acknowledge the brand that we carry. So we also have to do promotion and marketing. Participate in trade mission exhibition. We also increase awareness on certification, media program, lectures to universities, competitions. So basically to raise the profile of certification and of course sustainability of forest management. Yeah. About the scheme itself, about the Malaysian Timber Certification Scheme, we started in October 2001, basically 2 years after the operation started. We aim at encouraging and promoting the implementation of SFM and timber trade in Malaysia. That basically what I mentioned earlier about our vision and mission. And mainly the scheme provides independent assessment of forest management and timber companies. That's the gist of the scheme itself. The component of the MTCS, basically we have only 2 components. Of course, only the forest management certification, specifically that's a process that leads to the issuance of certificate by an independent party, that assess national forest and forest plantation management practices against the standards that have been developed by our standards review committee. And the other part of MTCS is the chain of custody certification. This is a process of evaluating and tracking wood products from certified forests to the point of sale to ensure the certified origin of the products, as well as this COC certification also includes a due diligence requirement for controlled sources. That one is an additional system that we have developed to cater to the additional requirements in the market, basically. So the institutional arrangement for MTCS, a lot of people still were not sure what exactly is the role of MTCC in terms of issuing certificate and things like that. So the main body that is actually conducting the audit is the certification bodies. Yeah, they are the one who would receive application for certification, and they would process the application for certification and conduct the audit for certification. So the certification bodies are the one who make decision to award MTCS certificate for forest management and for chain of custody. So MTCC does not, it has no role whatsoever in terms of making the decision whether or not to award a certificate. So it's basically a really independent third-party process. What MCCG does, basically, we are the national governing body. We make sure that the entire system works. We make, before the certification bodies can conduct any audit, they need to obtain accreditation from the national accreditation body. In Malaysia, it is the Standards Malaysia. So certification body, before they can start conducting any audit, they will need to apply for accreditation from Standards Malaysia. What happens is that Standards Malaysia will then assess the certification body's qualification, professionalism, and things like that, and they would also, participate in CB's audit and monitor whether the CBs are, qualified and have the skills, the necessary skill sets and knowledge to conduct audit under the MTCS. So once the CB obtain accreditation by the Standards Malaysia, then they will notify MTCC that they have obtained accreditation, and now they are then, basically qualified to conduct audit under the MTCS. Oh, Mr. Yong just told me I only have 5 minutes. Okay, so basically that's the institutional arrangement for the conduct of the audit, and actually for the running of the MTCS, just to be very clear that MTCC does not have any role in terms of the decision making of the CB. So these are the certification bodies that are accredited to conduct audit. For forest management certification, at the moment, we only have CIRIM. We used to have SGS on the list of accredited CB, but SGS is no longer accredited to conduct FM audit. But we are looking forward to welcome another certification body to be able to also conduct FM audit in the country. For COC, these are the CBs that conduct that are accredited to Standards Malaysia. There are also international CBs that are accredited to international accreditation. So they can also conduct audit for COC. For forest management, only only CB accredited by Standards Malaysia would be qualified to conduct audit, because we want to make sure that the FM truly understands the local nuances in conducting audit and forest management. Okay, that's the auditing and certification process. The application to CB, audit by CB, and the applicant will have to undertake corrective action and closing of any non-compliance, and then the CB will issue the certificate basically once the NC has been closed. We have two standards, the Forest Management Certification Standard and Chain of Custody Certification. I mentioned earlier that the Forest Management Standard is developed through a multi-stakeholder process. You might have also participated in some of these processes. Chain of Custody Certification Standard is developed by PFC with our participation as well, with stakeholders' participation, but we adopt the PFC Chain of Custody Standard fully. Just to go very quickly on the principles in the MCNI SFM, we have 9 principles. You can download the standard from the website if you're interested to know more. So everything is on our website, or you can just drop us an email if you have further question on the requirements of the standard. But feel free to look through, and we are open to receive any comments on it. This is the process flow for certification. Basically for FM, I just give an example. There is stage 1 audit, stage 2 audit, where the certification body must conduct stakeholders consultation before any audit is conducted, to get feedback from all the stakeholders on the basically intention to audit certain FMUs. Every year there will be surveillance audit. It's not like once audit is conducted and then the 5th year only then another audit is conducted. So there is yearly surveillance audit conducted, but the certification is valid for 5 years with annual surveillance audit conducted. So every year there will be audits conducted on the certified entities. This is the number of certified forest areas under the MTCS. You can also have a look of this, the list of all the certified areas on our website. You should be able to also see the public summary of the forest management plans of all these areas. Basically, that's one of the requirements, is that to increase transparency of the management of the forest resources, it is a requirement for the forest management unit to post their summary of their forest management plan on the website, or to make it available for stakeholders to have a look at it. So that you should know that it should be available on the website, or yeah, mostly it's easy just to see on the website. So there is also PFC Chain of Custody Certificate. 387 companies have been issued with the PFC Chain of Custody Certificate. These are the basically, you can see the range of companies that have been certified. There are 22 types of certified timber products, with only with 4 main types, basically, as you can see from the graph. And increasingly, there are a lot of demand for certified wood pallet. So it's quite interesting to me too. Anyway, so there's the worldwide export of MTCS, PFC certified timber products. It has been exported to a total of almost 70 destinations. Endorsement of PFC. We have been the first tropical forest scheme in Asia Pacific region to be endorsed by PFC, and we have been endorsed again, and we will be we are now undergoing another assessment for re-endorsement. So not only the certificate holders are being assessed and audited, MTCC is also being audited against, by PFC on the processes that we have in the MTCS. So that's where the strength of the endorsement is that we are also being assessed to ensure that the processes that we undertake actually are transparent and conforms to international expectations and rules. You may know about PFC. It's an international umbrella organization. It's equivalent to, it's runs in parallel with FSC, and it's currently the world's largest forest certification system, certifying about 75% of global certified forest area. We have been, recognized everywhere in the market, basically, also in public procurement policies, as providing sustainable sources as well as, legal sources, having a negligible risk, what do you call that, providing proof of that in the system, having the requirement to ensure that due diligence is conducted in the certification process. So before I wrap up, just quickly, what have been the impact and benefit of MTCS? It has, we can see a lot of improvements in the processes and practices of SFM. If business as usual, conventional logging is conducted and things like that, there's a lot of, damages to the forest. So now we can see that there's a lot of improvement in the process and practices of SFM. Certification has been able to increase transparency and engagement with other stakeholders in forest management. It contributes to Malaysia's roadmap towards SDG goals 2030, and also helps to fulfill other commitments, to international conventions and treaties. It raises values of forest resources. You can see that there's a lot of demand for timber, certified timber in the market, basically, and it provides access to environmentally sensitive markets, mainly. So, but with all that, we can see that there is still a lot of room for improvement and for development and progress, basically, because there's only just 12% of the world's forests have been certified. There's still a lot of work to be done, and even for Malaysia, we still have a lot of work to make sure that whatever forest resources that we have could obtain certification, so that improvement can be made in the management of all these forest resources that are remaining, basically. So that's my presentation on the MTCS. Feel free to send me questions and I will try to answer them in the chat box. Thank you.
Thank you, JCT, for basically keeping to the time frame that has been allocated to her. And of course, I think her presentation highlights the fact that sustainability is at the core of all our pursuits and endeavor. I think for us as a nation, as what the CD has mentioned, our vision would be to see Malaysia indeed come out as a nation that truly appreciates and so-called this value, the full value of the forest resources that we have, and that talking about our own national sustainability, and in the process also contribute to national, global sustainability as well. As all of us are aware also that the SDG 2030 is also a big UN program that Malaysia is also involved. I think every effort must be taken in terms of ensuring that indeed how we manage our resources are being carried out responsibly and sustainably. With that, now I would like to go on to the next panelists. And from sustainability, now we look at the requirements in terms of legal requirements. And I will start with the Peninsular Malaysia side, Ms. Amy Sharina Norizan. She's from the Malaysian Timber Industry Board. She's a Deputy Director for Trade and Development. Amy has been with the Malaysian Timber Industry Board since 2004. And in June 2020, she took on the post of the Deputy Director for Trade and Development Division, International Unit. She was previously the Senior Assistant Director, Licensing and Inspectorate Division from 2019 to 2020. And then she has also been the Executive Senior Assistant Director, seconded to the Pro-Tem Secretariat for the EU Forest Law Enforcement, Governance and Trade Voluntary Partnership Agreement, the DG division from 2011 and 2019. And that's the reason that she will be presenting the TILAS for Peninsular Malaysia on our behalf, with her extensive experience working on the aspect of TILAS. And also with that, I would like to now invite Emmy to make a presentation, as also to remind you again, you have 20 minutes for your presentation. Thank you. Emmy, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Yong. Happy birthday to you. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good morning to everybody. Okay, I would like to share with you the Peninsular Malaysia Timber Legality Assurance System. Okay, let me. All right. Okay, and okay, as mentioned by Cik Siti just now, the market demand for legal timber was there before in 1980s to 1990s, yeah, and a serious global concern on tropical deforestation and illegal logging happened worldwide, and you can see that many developed countries has come up with their demand for timber and timber products verified for legality, like US in back then 2008. And also EU for UTR 2013, Australia, Japan, Korea. This is like just recently 2017 and 2018, and coming up, we just got to know that to know that New Zealand is coming up with their own legality requirement. And also not forgetting, there are also the public procurement policies on many countries on timber products for government and public projects with possible verification of legality in the longer term. So we like it or not, legality is part of the requirement nowadays. Yeah. Okay. So as a background on the EU FLEGT, Forest Law Enforcement, Governance and Trade Voluntary Partnership Agreement, FLEGT VPA, many has known that has emerged as a potentially important and effective mechanism to combat illegal logging and trade in illegal timber in the world. EU introduced the EU Action Plan in 2003, and Malaysia is supportive. Malaysia is supportive of this initiative and has reached the final stages of negotiation to conclude the VPA up to September 2014. And the heart of the VPA is the Timber Legality Assurance System to assure the legality of all timber products exported from Malaysia is legal. Yeah, and we knew that EU always said that FLEGT licensed timber will be able to enter EU markets through a green lane under the UTR, which it came into force in 3rd March 2013. So what is TILAS? So TILAS is actually covers all applications of all existing relevant legislation in the forestry and timber sectors in Malaysia. Yeah, okay, and this is the 27 member states of EU countries, minus UK, which just left EU in Brexit officially in March 2020. So why we are looking at EU? So EU is our major exporter, major buyer of Malaysia's timber and timber products, which recorded in 2019 about 2.11 billion, and also in 2018 about 2.14 billion. It's about 9 to 10% market share to the export to the EU. So EU is among our important major markets after US and Japan. Yeah. So we have to keep the market share there. So we have to adhere to the legality requirement there. And why, maybe if many of you is just new to this arrangement, maybe saying that why Malaysia is putting trouble to join the VPA negotiation. So when you look at this map, not only Malaysia, you can see that from Asian region and the African countries, and also on the left is the Central and South America also joining the VPA negotiation. And like our neighbor country, Indonesia, they already signed the FLEGT VPA, and they already sent the FLEGT licensed timber, which marked as a SVLK, System Legality, Legalitas Verifikasi Kayu, and also Vietnam just signed, and soon they will send the FLEGT timber to the market. So we must be part of the negotiation, yeah, of this arrangement. And this is a snapshot of the FLEGT VPA negotiation for Malaysia. Starting in 2004 April, there was an informal consultation with the EU with the formal announcement of negotiation in 2006 and the first official negotiation held in 2007. And until September 2014, there was a very significant negotiation impact have been recorded, and with that 10 years of TILAS development, there was 6 joint expert meetings, this is the working level where doing all the amendments which related to the negotiation for like legal tax and TILAS, and also the market benefit. And also it brought up to the technical working group, which has been conducted in 11 TWG meetings, which is the level where they will discuss further what should be taken into account or any amendment with regards to requirement and what Malaysia can fulfill with that requirement. We want to give something that Malaysia can achieve. Yeah, this is not just beautiful on the paper, but you cannot implement. Yeah, and the senior official meeting has been conducted in 2 times, where this is where if Malaysia signed the FLEGT VPA, this is the avenue to sign and announce the signing of the VPA. And not only that, 18 video conferences have been conducted. With the latest one was in 5th September 2014. And one element in the negotiation is that the stakeholder consultations, which is very important for EU. Yeah, and this is about 20 stakeholders or more consultations have been conducted at national and Sabah regional levels. And not forgetting also, there was also briefings to all state governments, which we know that in Malaysia, forestry is under jurisdiction of the states. We need to have the cooperation and the yes from the state government to allow for the federal government to go ahead and have their cooperation for this FLEGT VPA negotiation. And what is happening after the negotiation stalled in 2014? MyTILAS has been strengthened in 2015 and until now. Yeah. Okay, so in support of UTR and pending the conclusion of negotiation of FLEGT VPA with the EU, Peninsula has commenced implementation of TILAS designated as MyTILAS Peninsula purely as Malaysia's own initiative since 1st February 2013. Peninsula Malaysia sent their first consignment 1 month ahead from the EUTR commencement in March 2013. Yeah, so maybe you want to know what is the difference between TILAS and MyTILAS. Actually, MyTILAS is exactly TILAS, which is actually for Malaysia EU FLEGT VPA, but since it's being stalled and no progress since then, so it has been converted to MyTILAS, yeah, Peninsula Malaysia. So Peninsula Malaysia TILAS has also in place comprehensive control procedures to ensure the exclusion of unverified timber, where using the current licensing scheme in the harvesting site until the export point. Yeah. And also, Peninsula is confident that MyTILAS meets the requirement of due diligence under UTR, and this is a regional basis using control procedures, institutional arrangements, and its implementation in Peninsula Malaysia. So, MyTILAS has 6 principles and 24 criterion, which elaborated in 24 tables, and the 6 principles are: 1, right to harvest; forest operations; statutory charges; other users' rights; nil operation; and trade and customs. So these 6 principles actually has been agreed upon with the EU in the FLEGT VPA negotiation. Yeah? And the definition of legality is that timber harvested by a licensed person from approved areas and timber product exported in accordance with the laws, regulations, and procedures pertaining to forestry, timber industry, and trade of Malaysia. So you can see here, it's not a new thing actually for the timber industry. What they have to do is that to just go according to the laws. Yeah, and MyTILAS tables detailing every relevant principles, criterion, legislative reference which is backed by the legislation, and who will be the responsible agency, and what is the verification procedures, and also what output the auditor need to find out for verifying the legality aspect of the table. And it involves 8 implementing agencies from 6 different ministries. As you can see, we need to do a lot of communication inter-agency, in agencies at inter-ministerial level. Yeah. And as of 31st August this year, a total of about 83,700 MyPlus licenses has been issued for export to EU since March 2013. That's a lot, yeah. And it covers 12 major products exported to the market, like sawn timber, plywood, logs, furniture, and also, yeah, as what once Cik Siti mentioned, the wood pallet, yeah, it has been added to the product coverage, yeah. And you can see, pardon me if you can, this table is quite small, but this is what reflected in the my TILAS table. Maybe I pick one example is like for principle 1, right to harvest. You can see the approval of harvesting area by state authority, the criterions, and the authority who responsible is the State Forestry Department and State Authority. Yeah. Okay, and then you can see a lot of aspect being covered there, and very high interaction frequency happening in the this MyTILAS. And you can see in the middle, so State Forestry Department, this is among the licensing authorities involved: Malaysian Timber Industry Board, Department of Environment, DOSH, Department of Labour, SOCSO, Royal Mission Custom, and also DOA are responsible for this legality aspect. And on the left side, you can see the monitoring part where of course, the licensing authority will do their internal audits, and the additional part is that the need of the to conduct compliance audit by third-party auditor, third-party monitoring. So to make sure that the verification and also the legality and credibility of MyTILAS license being assessed by third party. And after the compliance audit being taken out, and the result of the compliance audit will be brought to the coordination committee, which is the implementing agency coordination committee, which the members are the licensing authorities and implementing authorities, and they will discuss what element should be improved, and then we brought up to the governance, which is the TILAS Advisory Group tag. This is to show the transparency of the reporting, and the members of the tag will be from industry, implementing agency, representative from there, and also the NGOs to check and balance. Yeah? And this institutional setup will make sure that MyTILAS license issued confidently by MTIB for Peninsular Malaysia. And the element of timber import legality requirement also being taken into account, where it reflected in the legal text article 4.3, where the licensing authority need to be confident when they issue the license, all the aspects have been taken care of. So for importation related to logs, sawn timber, plywood, particle board, and fiberboard, it's compulsory to submit if the species related to CITES, they have to give the CITES permit or certificate and copy of certificate of origin, including one. This is the additional one of the legality from the 6 element, which either flat license or certification, FSC or PFC. And also the certificate of voluntary legality scheme, VLO, VLC, or any legality document issued by recognized agency from the country. And a self-declaration can, but must be endorsed by the authorities of the exporting country, and also the copy of custom export declaration from exporting countries. So from here, we can see the MTIB receive a lot of copy of custom export declarations, which they said this is the easiest one to show the legality of the timber import. And what happened to the products which are not listed here? So MTIB is advised for other timber products to obtain legal document, especially for timber products which will be processed and re-export mainly to the EU countries. This is to make their trading easier. And this is the stages where from 2015, the Flattico Group has decided to formulate the requirement, which this is actually the new requirement where MTIB and all the implementing agencies want to do it. So, and briefing session, the multi-stakeholder briefing, including the registered importers, associations, forwarding agents, related implementing agencies, involved, and not forgetting Malaysia also sent WTO notification to member countries to make sure that this requirement is transparent and this is not discriminatory, and also to show the fair competition in the trade. Yeah, and it fully enforced in 2017 until now. And MTIB also, for multi-last purposes, has done the business requirement study for proposed implementation of information and licensing integration, where this is like we need MTIB is planning ahead to have the integrated system within Malaysian General Custom, the Forestry Department, and other implementing agencies, which currently we don't have. We don't really have that one single window to interact with every implementing agencies. So maybe in future, this can be taken out, but we are aware that this involves cost and cooperation and also time. But let's see if you can really materialize this, yeah. And also the collaboration activities with other implementing agencies have been taken out, where MTIB together with traffic having projects for guidelines for verifying timber legality, this is the series of workshop involving officers from Royal Malaysian Custom and timber licensing related agencies from 2016 to 2019. And under the UNODC, United Nations Office on Drugs and Crimes, there was also the Container Control Program, CCP, provided to CCP Control Port Unit officers. If not mistaken, this is in Port Klang, customs and law enforcement agencies, including MTIB and every region of the forestry authorities, and also relevant partners, which is involved NGOs, targeting timber and illegal wood products in trade supply chain in 2019. And also our program now, Malaysian Nature Society program, is also one of it for MNS members to provide information skills requirement of nation stakeholders through training and case studies, revisits, etc. And also MTIB has conducted the roadshows on implementation of second compliance audit last year, and have been participated by about mostly 650 participants, and currently the second last compliance audit is in progress. Yeah, and MTIB also, through licensing and the inspectorate division, conducted annual roadshow on import and export procedures related to timber products to inform the latest regulations, procedures, and development of the legality requirements to the timber industry players. So this is some of the activities, and this is some of the pictures of the activities conducted. Yeah. Okay. And what we are going to do with the multi-last license. So we need to strengthen the multi-last license. So we have to conduct compliance audit for assessing multi-last legality credibility, which it is planned to be conducted in every 2 years. So this year, and it should be in 2022 and 2024, is there's nothing hurdles. Yeah, and also to continue to collaborate with other relevant implementing agencies, which MTIB cannot work alone. We have to work together. And also, after the compliance audit have been conducted, and report should be presented to the implementing agency coordination committee, IACC type meeting, and also to be brought up to the stakeholder consultations to keep up to all the relevant stakeholders what's happening in the multi-last license system. And also, the very important one is to promote the multi-last license to EU, and industry also has come to MTIB to say that let's expand the multi-last license to other markets, which the demand for legal timber from other markets is growing now. So it will be easy for the exporter to use this single multi-last license to other country, but this element is up to the ministry to say yes, and need to be further elaborate on that. And notwithstanding, MTIB is also upgrading the licensing system from currently MTIB core system, MCS, to iTimber, which projected to be materialized in April 2021. Yeah. Okay, and as for conclusion, Malaysia is supportive to legality verification initiative to meet the demand of legal and timber products. Yeah? And pending the conclusion and signing of that TVPA, multi-last will be continued and strengthened. And we know that we need to have collaborative effort, involvement and cooperation within the other implementing agencies to ensure the legality verification, monitoring and adjustment being held thoroughly and entirety. And we have to conduct more awareness program for the industry players and related stakeholders to keep abreast with the new legality requirements to maintain market access and market share of timber products, which is growing in the outside world. Yeah. So I think that's all for me. And if you have any inquiries about multi-license license, you can email to that email address, and that number you can call. Okay. That's all for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Puan Amy, for a very comprehensive presentation on the mighty loss for Peninsular Malaysia. I think the work is very tough in the sense that it involves multiple ministries and agencies. But nonetheless, I think as all of us are aware, the world over, especially in terms of export and so on, they are very concerned about the forest. And of course, they are concerned about illegal logging. And with that, in that context, I think that's why you see that the developed countries are actually pushing forward in terms of ensuring that the timber that they purchase from many exporting countries are coming from legal sources. With that, I would like to introduce the next speaker that we have. He is Ms. Encik Ricky Jonathan Alec from Sarawak. He is currently the Assistant Director for Planning and Management Division in the Forestry Department, Sarawak. Ricky started his career as an executive forester with Forest Department, Sarawak in 1996. After graduating with a Bachelor of Science in Forestry from University Pertahanan Malaysia in 1995. He was first attached with the Forest Operation Branch, specifically focusing on SFM. He has served in many areas such as international affairs, strategic planning, heading the Sirike Divisional Forest Office, community engagement, and developing reduced impact logging guidelines. He was also the local counterpart to the collaboration project with the German Technical Agency and the chief local counterpart to the ITTO MFMA project. He has vast experience in forest management, especially in forest management certification. With that, I would like to pass the floor now to Encik Ricky. And again, I would like to inform you that your time is 20 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Yong. Thank you, MIS, for inviting Forest Department to give a short presentation. It's short. And good morning, everyone. It's mentioned by Mr. Yong just now. Today, I'm going to talk about the forest certifications and the timber legality verification system in Sarawak. It was shown on the screen as well. Okay, here is the my presentation outline. Of course, I'm going to have some of the overview of the forestry in Sarawak. As we all know, that the forest and land is a state matters. Okay, and then I'm going to talk a little bit on the forest management certifications, and also talk about the Sarawak timber legality verification system, and finally, I'm going to share with you all some of the enforcement initiative that has been taken by the Forest Department Sarawak. Okay, here is a little bit on the overview of the forestry in Sarawak. Okay, just to kick off these presentations, approximately 63% of Sarawak total land area of 12.4 million hectares are still under the forest cover. Okay. Forestry sector and timber industry has been continues to be important to the development of the state, with an average royalty collected from log extracted from the natural forest contribute around 100 and 150 million annually. Of course, therefore, it's very important that the government must ensure that the forests are sustainably managed and the logs are produced legally. Okay. Besides that, the government as well recognized the importance of sustainable management of the existing forest resources, not just for the economic reasons, but for the environmental and social benefit to the people of Sarawak. Adding more to that, last year on the 12th of December 2019, we have produced, the state have produced a new policy on the state forest policy. We call it the state forest policy based on the 2019. Okay. Here is the some of the land use policy for the state. Out of 12.4 million hectares of the state land mass, 7 million hectares are allocated for the forestry alone, of which 6 million hectares is mainly for the PFE or permanent forest estate. And then the rest is 1 million hectares is mainly for the TPA or totally protected area. And when I talk about TPA, it consists of the national park, nature reserve, and wildlife sanctuary. And also the state has allocated 4 million hectares of agriculture, of which 3 million hectares is for the oil palm, and another 1 million is for other crops. And then the remaining of 1.4 million hectares is allocated for other land use, mainly for the development project as well. Okay, here is the main and the associate ordinance and regulation governing the forestry and the timber industry in Sarawak. Of course, the four main ordinance and rules, we talk about the forest ordinance, okay, forest rules, and also the forest planted forest rules, okay, and then also the forest main rules 2015. All right, here is some of the international framework for the forestry sector. There's a 4 regulating agency that we have it here. And then the forest department, the role and function is mainly to regulate the forest management activities in the Sarawak. We also have the Sarawak Forestry Corporations. I mean, before this, starting for this year, they are required to look into the national park and nature reserve and also the wildlife. Okay, and then we also have the STIDC, Sarawak Timber Industry Development Corporations, which is the agency to look after the downstream wood industry in Sarawak, and also the Hawut Timber Siran Berhad, HTSB, is being appointed by the state government to carry out physical checking and endorsement of the log movement. Okay. We also have the Nature Resource Environmental Board, which will regulate the environment components. All of these agencies, it was under the purview of the Ministry of Urban Development and Natural Resources, or we call it is a MUNDER. Okay. Where is it? Okay. Now I come to the forest management in Sarawak. Forest departments has been adopting the SFM through forest management certification, which is based on the endorsement of the policy of the forest management since certification since last year, September last year. It was mandatory actually for all the forest timber license, all long-term forest timber license to obtain the forest management certifications by the year 2022. And then for the Sarawak Timber Legality Verification Systems is one of the way forward in order to ensure that the state forest resources are managed sustainably and the log produced legal. Okay. Okay, back to the forest management certification. So far we have around 1.3 million hectares of our nature forest has been certified by using the Malaysian Timber Certification Schemes, okay? And then I think this figure is, I mean, before this, since 2008, we only have around 85,000. Now, up to 2020, we already have 1.3 million hectares. I think personally, it was one of the tremendous achievements done by the state. Okay, and then very important to note that while the long-term timber license are preparing themselves towards forest management certifications, they are also being regulated under the forest under the Sarawak Timber Legality Verification Systems. Okay. And here is the sum of the forest plantation management that has been certified. Overall, we have 94,000. And then the total certified area, I mean the plantation plus the natural forest is approximately around 1.4 million. Okay. Here is some of the definitions of the legality in Sarawak. It mentions here that the log harvested by the licensed persons from approved area and verified by the relevant authorities, okay, in accordance with the law, regulation, and procedures pertaining to the forestry and trade in Sarawak. Okay, here is the one of the definition that we use it for the log, legal log in Sarawak. Okay, now I come to the STLVS. What is STLVS actually? STLVS is the Timber Legality Assurance System that has been in place for Sarawak, which cover the licensing, harvesting, transporting, manufacturing, and trading of logs in timber products, and according to the existing state's law and its regulations. Well, he's been there since the existence of the Forest Department of Sarawak. Okay, then the STLVS is now new. It's not new, and he's been there in use ever since. The timber industry or logging industry exists in Sarawak. However, due to some requirement during the discussions on the EU FLEGT somewhere back in 2010, our timber legality verification system are required to be documented, okay, and called is STLVS. And then this thing has been regulated by the Forest Department of Sarawak, together with the Howard Timbers dan Berhad and Sarawak Timber Industry Development Corporation as well, under the purview of the Ministry of Urban Development and Natural Resources. Okay, in fact, the STLVS acts as the process of a due diligence of the forest and timber of Sarawak to meet, in order to meet the international trade regulations, consisting of the four main elements. One is that we have the interagency standard operating procedures between those parties involved with the regulations of the movement of the logs. And then the standard for the verification of the STLVS, we have a 6 principle, okay? And then we also have the independence compliance monitoring and also the guidelines on the implementing of the STLVS audit. I will go further on this later on. Okay, when you talk about the STLVS, it's encompassed of the 6 principle, okay? And then they also have the 18 criteria and 94 indicators for this one, okay? This is about actually, for example, the right to harvest is about the license to carry out the log extraction in Sarawak. Well, in addition, this principle also highlighted that the GP or General Harvesting Plan and the DP or Detailed Harvesting Plan and permit to intercoup are required to be endorsed before operation on the ground can commence. Okay, and then when we talk about the second principle, it's about the logging operation itself. We talk about the removal of log from the felling site to the mill or to the export points, and the third principle is about to the statutory charge, which will look into the royalty and other related charge that the licensees need to pay to the state. And then the principle number 4 is on the user right, where the licensee, of course, they need to have the consultation with the surrounding communities on light of the rents claim and also the land claims prior to logging operations in the affected area. Well, the purpose is try to avoid the conflict between the both parties involved later on. And the principle 5 is on the requirement to have a license to operate mill in Sarawak and to ensure logs that receive can be considered as legal logs. Okay, and then the principle 6 is on the requirement to be registered with the STDC, to be involved in manufacturing, selling, and distributing, marketing timber and timber product. Okay, this principle also emphasizes on the requirements to be the exporter, an importer of timber and timber product in Sarawak. Overall, the STLPS reflect the regulatory requirements covering the management of the forest resources itself, and community recognitions and benefits, and as well as environmental protections. And also the most important thing is the traceability, okay, of the material from the forest through the timber products. It shows in this slide, it shows the regulating framework for legal compliance in all activities involved to ensure the logs produce a legal based on the definitions of the legality. Normally, it takes me around 5 minutes to describe all of this, but since we have limited times, I think I can only show it briefly. It also shows the locality of the activity implemented between all the agencies involved. Both the chain of custody for local processing and export is shown in the flowcharts. Okay, so okay, from now on, I will show you the evidence. Of course, such of the documents, marking of tag using the effect by the relevant authority at different stages of the process, and also to prove that the logs produce a legal based on our definitions of legality in Sarawak. Okay, here is the requirement on if you want to harvest the area, you must have you must be able to get your we call it forest timber license conditions. Okay, this is legal things. Okay, this is very crucial to point out that you should know in the implementing of the STLVS in Sarawak is the log must be filed from the approved forest timber license. Okay, I would like to emphasize it here. It must be approved forest timber license. Okay, so anybody or company can apply the forest timber license by sending their application with the relevant documents to our director of forest. Okay, if everything in order, Forest Department Sarawak will issue the license documents after the application being approved by the minister concerned. Here is general harvesting plan. Okay, once we issue the forest timber license, the licensees are required to prepare the general harvesting plan, and this thing need to be forwarded to the department for approval. Okay, this plan consists of a coop, logging rod network that. Just to ensure that the harvesting operations in the forest timber license area will be carried out in accordance with the prescriptions of the existing forest management plan. So the licensee need to identify, the areas such as a terrain class 4 and the shifting cultivations area or shifting agriculture area from the operations area. Okay, and then after the GP being approved, then they have to submit the DP, okay, the detailed harvesting plan. So the licensees need to prepare the detailed harvesting plan, and it has to be submitted to the department for approval also. Okay, the DP incorporates all the sustainable forest management principle and practices at the coop level. Okay, normally the size of the coop is with the range between the 1,000 to 3,000 hectare, and then it contains prescriptions of the harvesting block itself, harvesting method to be used, and the road network, conservation areas for the protections of the TPA, and also some of the critical resources. All of this information can be found through the detailed harvesting plan. Okay, now we move on to the felling site. At felling site, all log that has been cut must be clearly embossed with property mark that has been allocated to the licensee itself. The property mark indicate the ownerships of the logs. Okay, and then the log production identity, or we call it as LPI, is also required to be at both end of the locks. The LPI tags contain information such as the coop and block where the lock harvested from, the property mark, the species, the length, and also the diameter of each of the timber. Okay, and then after this, all the lock that has been cut must be registered in the Sarawak Lock Tracking and Forest Revenue System, or we call it as a RIFLOC, as a daily productions return that they need to, this RIFLOC need to capture all the information with regard to the lock being cut. And then RIFLOC, previously known as a lock tracking system, is a custom built one of the ICT tools, as well as a network application used in Sarawak to monitor and control the movements of the lock itself. In brief, RIFLOC is used to capture, monitor the details of lock license operator or their contractors, and then the volume of lock that has been royalty assessed, and the movement of lock itself. Okay, RIFLOCs they makes the available data in real time for the authorized stakeholders. And then from the filing site, then the logs will be moved on to the royalty place of royalty marking for royalty assessment process. All our royalty marking place must be within the license area and near to the filing sites. Of course, in order to ensure that the revenue leakages, of course, can be eliminated. Okay, and then the royalty assessment involve the process or physical checking, and also the verification of information that's submitted by the licensee through the lock specifications forms in terms of the royalty itself. And then our authorized officer later on will check to ensure that the property mark, LPI, and the number of locks, and then the species again, and then the measurements as the length and diameter are correct based on the submissions by the licensee, and the form of a lock specification or record and our DPR or daily productions record. Okay. And then for the royalty marking process, upon confirmations, all logs will be embossed with GH hammer at both ends of the logs. GH means Jabatan Hutan or Forest Department. And this will indicate that the log has been royalty assessed and payment due to the state government are paid for. Well, the hammer is custom made by our vendor and upon request by FBS, and the hammer is our control item. Here we still at the place of the...
Okay, Ricky, can I just let you know that your time is almost going to be up soon? So you
okay.
going to conclude.
I only have 2 slides more. Okay, we still at the royalty place of the royalty marking. The logs are meant for export to be affixed at both ends with a yellow. Okay, and the logs for the export, log for the local processing will be using the orange. All the imported logs from Sarawak must be embossed with the property mark and Jabatan Hutan hammer mark, and must be affixed with the LPI tags, affixed with a yellow royalty assessment tag. So if any of this is not present during checking at our export point in Sarawak or import point in any countries, meaning the logs are not compliant in the STVS and most probably is not legal. Okay. Here is the example of some of the removal pass. Okay. Now I go to the STVS audit. Okay. In addition to STVS, the state of Sarawak has taken a step further. Okay. To introduce the STVS audit compliance. Okay, I have to go to very fast on this. Well, it's very important to note here that the standard will allow independent verifications to be carried out by the third-party auditors on the licensee or company where they are complying with the STL BS. All right. Here is three registered audit firm that has been what do you call it? Registered with the FDS. We have the Global Forestry Services and CIRIM as a control union itself. Okay. And for example, here is our verified forest so far by using the STVS audit. So far, we only have around 872. All right. And then for the males, we have 10. All right. Of course, some of the enforcement initiative being carried out by the department. And then the state enforcement agencies carrying out all the enforcement activities along the chain of custody in order to ensure that all logs in timber products are legally produced. Okay, for your information, there are several initiatives under the Timber Enforcement Administration and Management System. We call it TIMS project, and to ensure that all logs in timber product in Sarawak are legally produced. Okay, we have various machine and personals involved, and so many personals are involved with all the enforcement activities. Beside that, we also have the communications infrastructure. We do have the 36 implement the all ACC. Okay, we do have the 36 one-stop compliance center to monitor for the royalty assessment as well as doing the enforcement and also for the compliance activities. Okay. So with that, thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Encik Ricky, for the very comprehensive presentation from Sarawak on the aspect of forest certification and Sarawak Timber Legalities Verification System (STV-LVS). And time is ticking on. I would now like to introduce the last panelist for today, Encik Musa Saleh from the Sabah Forestry Department. He is currently the head of Sustainable Forest Management Division from Sabah Forestry Department. Encik Musa has vast experience in forest management certification in Sabah and was involved in the Sabah TILAS since its implementation in 2010. Since then, he has been actively engaged in Sabah TILAS development, including the Implementing Agency Coordination Committee and the stakeholder consultations to further strengthen the Sabah TILAS standard. As the head of the SFM division, he is now leading the implementation of SFM, including forest management certification and Sabah TILAS. He serves as a member of Sabah Forestry Department's Technical Working Group on Forest Certification and also a member of the Standard Review Committee on the revision of the Malaysian Timber Certification Scheme Standard. Encik Musa is a forester with a degree in forest management from University Putra, Malaysia, and a master's degree in science and agroforestry from University Malaysia Sabah. I would like to now invite Encik Musa to present his topic on forest certification practices and Sabah TILAS. Encik Musa, the floor is yours.
Okay. Good morning to all of you. Thank you, Mr. Yong, for kind introduction. Thank you for organizer for inviting Sabah Forestry Department to share on forest certification practices in Sabah TILAS in Sabah. So this is outlines of my presentation. As for our forest resources, we have about 3.8 million hectares of gazetted forest resources. Out of that, about 3.5 million hectares is forest reserve in various classes.
Sorry, Mr. Musa.
Yeah, you can.
Mr. Musa, you need to put your slides on full screen.
Is it okay?
Yes, yes. Mr. Musa is all well now. We can carry on. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Eileen. So our forest resources, as I mentioned earlier, is about 3.8 million hectares, consisting of forest reserve, Sabah parks, wildlife sanctuary, and wildlife conservation area. And about 3.6 million hectares is forest reserve in various classes, where harvesting or logging only allowed in class 2 commercial forest reserve, about 1.7 million hectares. So for your information, in our case in Sabah, the state government has adopted SFM, Sustainable Forest Management, since 1997, where the 3 pillars of SFM, social, environment, and economy, taken on board in the preparation of forest management plan. And as for forest management area certified in Sabah, as of now, we have 897,000 hectares, our forest area certified under either FAC or MTCS PAFC, and some of our forest area also certified under MSISO, and our wetland, about 78,000 hectares certified under Ramsar. And we are the largest FAC certified holders in Malaysia. This is showing the area, forest area in Sabah. The green in color showing the forest area certified under FSC, and the red color and the blue areas, our APMU certified under MTCS PAFC. As I mentioned earlier, we also have wetland certified under Ramsar, about 78,000 hectares. So based on our experience in implementing forest certification, there are various issues we are facing. One of the issues is that cut-off date, for example, under FSC standard, cut-off date is 1994. Any areas developed under 1994 is not eligible for FSC certification. As for MTCS PAFC, there is also cut-off date 2010, where any APMU areas developed after 2010 cannot be certified unless fulfill the stringent requirement under the MTCS standard. This is overview of our Sabah TILAS. Actually, Sabah has participated in the EU negotiation regarding practice in the development of BVA, Voluntary Partnership Agreement, for Malaysia in 2007. However, as mentioned earlier by Ms. Amy, our Malaysia has yet to sign the BPA. We are still in the negotiation process because in our case in Malaysia, all three regions, Peninsula, Sabah, and Sarawak, should be agreed to this BPA. But in our case, Sabah, regardless BPA signed or not, we proceed with our Sabatilas that has been developed in response to EU Plectic program requirement. And our Sabatilas now are legality standard used in the third-party auditing in Sabah since 2009. And Sabah Tilas has been made mandatory since 2010. For the implementation of Sabah Tilas from 2009 to 2014 only covered the upstream operation involved Principle 1 to Principle 4. And from 2015 onwards, Sabah Tilas implementation covered both upstream and downstream operation under Principle 1 to Principle 6. And now we are in the process of strengthening our Sabah Tilas through stakeholders consultation and implementing agency coordination committee meeting. Based on response from timber industry, Sabah Tilas verified timber products are now accepted in international markets, for example, EU, Australia, US, Japan, and Korea. This is the process of Tilas audit implementation. The first stage, Sabah Forest Department will appoint a third-party auditor to conduct Sabah Tilas. And audit preparation, Sabah Forest Department will prepare a list of licensee to be audited and also monthly audit schedule. The third process is conducting auditing in the field that involves activities like opening meeting, auditing in the license area, document review, field inspection, and also involve the third-party auditor will prepare preliminary finding reports and also closing meeting. So the next process is submission of final report by the third-party auditor. So the auditor will submit a final auditing report to Sabah Forest Department, and based on this report, based on this report and outcomes of this report, there will be corrective action requests. There are three generally. One, observation. Under this observation, the licensee is required to address or to close this gap before the next auditing. If the licensee able to close this gap, then Tilas certificate will be issued to them. But in the case of they have failed to comply this requirement, this observation car will be upgraded to minor car. And on this minor car, the licensee is required to close this gap before the next auditing. And if the licensee successfully close this gap, compliance certificate will be issued to them. But if they fail to close this minor gap, minor car will be upgraded to major. See, on major gaps, the licensee needs to close the major gaps within 2 months. And Sabah Forest Department team is to will conduct a close-out visit and submit a report to the auditor. Then auditor will review the report and submit recommendation to the Sabah Forest Department. Then if the licensee successfully close the gap, a TILAS compliance certificate will be issued to them. If they fail, no TILAS compliance certificate. This is our checklist, auditing checklist, comprising of 6 principles. Principle 1, right to harvest. Principle 2, forest operation. Principle 3, statutory charges. Principle 4, other users' rights. These 4 principles is for auditing and upstream operation. The principle 5, mill operation. Principle 6, trade and custom. These 2 principles is for downstream processing. This is the example of our checklist. Principle 1, right to harvest. Right to harvest, there okay, right to harvest under criterion 1.1, approval for harvesting right, for example, there are 2 verifiers under this criteria. For example, verify 1.1.1, the licensee shall hold approval of harvest rights. This is in the form of license agreement, cook permit, or form to be permit. And the second verifier under this criteria, areas gazetted for specific purposes, including native customary right, this is only applied in state land, shall be excluded from the area to be approved for harvesting. The second example, under this principle, criterion 1.2 EIE requirement, under this criteria, for example, 1.2.1, areas with 500 hectares or more, the licensee shall have approved EIE. Then under verifier 1.2.2, for areas of 100 hectares or more, but less than 500 hectares, the licensee shall have proposed mitigation measure, PMM. Then that need to be also approved by Director of Environmental Protection Department, EPD. Under criteria 1.2.3, the licensee shall implement relevant mitigation measures, and they are required to submit environmental compliance report quarterly. This is the example of principle for downstream processing, downstream operation. Principle 5, for example, mill operation. Under criterion 5.1, issuance, renewal, upgrading of mill license, and condition of operation. Under this criteria, for example, verifier 5.1.1, all wood processing facilities shall hold a valid license. And under criterion 5.3, worker safety and health, there are various verifiers. For example, verifier 5.3.1, the company or the licensee shall ensure workers are legally employed. Foreign workers shall have valid work permit from Sabah Immigration Department, and all workers are covered by insurance, with insurance, and also shall have COI from Forest Department. Based on the third-party audit statement, Sabah Forestry Department will issue the TILAS compliance certificate to eligible auditees. This is the example of certificate for upstream operation audited under Principle 1 and 2.4, and the other one is a example of certificate issued to the licensee under downstream under Principle 5 and 6. So the achievement of our Sabah TILAS from 2009 up to 2019, this graph showing the achievement of the licensee from 2009 to 2019, which are audited under this under our Sabah TILAS. And as you can see, in 2009, they are about 2009, 2014, only covered upstream operation, and the number of licensee audited under TILAS increased drastically in 2015, because in 2015 we include downstream operation in our Sabah TILAS auditing. So you can see the compliance, trend of compliance by the licensee with regards to our Sabah TILAS consistent from 2015 up to 2018. However, based on this graph, we can see in 2019 the compliance is slightly dropped. This is because we include the element of COC in our Sabah TILAS standard, starting to 2016, and because of that, some of the licensee are not ready in terms of documentation to fulfill the requirement under this COC component and the Sabah TILAS. So that is the main reason the compliance, the number of compliance from the licensee slightly dropped in 2019. So what is the lesson learned from our experience in implementing forest certification and also Sabah timber legality assurance system? Based on that experience, we found out that the first lesson, the licensee's compliance to all existing laws and regulations are enhanced. And the second lesson, transparency and forest governance and the implementation of SFM in Sabah is enhanced. The third lesson, holders of MTCS, PEFC, or FSC certificates showing their commitments in managing their license area, FMU area, based on the SFM principle. And based on our experience, we found out that Sabah TILAS compliance certificate serve as part of due diligence requirement in timber trade where our certificate is accepted by international market, as I mentioned earlier. With that, thank you very much. That's all my presentation.
Thank you, Jay Musa, for the very comprehensive presentation on the forest certification practices and Sabah TILAS just now. I want to thank all the four panelists for the very well presented, very comprehensive presentation on the respective topic that have been given to them. With Siti on the MTCS, Amy on the Peninsular Malaysia TILAS, Encik Reki Jonathan on the Forest Certification and Sarawak Timber Legality Verification System, and Encik Musa on the Forest Certification Practices and the Sabah TILAS. Before I wrap up, I thought I just want to go around again over the four panelists to see whether you have any last word before I wrap up. Okay, I'll go around with, since Ricky is first on top of my screen here. Ricky, the floor is yours to last few words that you would like to conclude your session with us today.
Okay, Mr. Yong, thanks. I'm okay. Really good health. Thank you very much.
Okay, I move on to Siti, who sits just next to me. Siti, the mic is yours.
Yeah, we'd just like to thank everybody for all the questions and for the attention that they have given to my presentation as well. Very interested to see, I would like to welcome any further questions or clarifications, and anybody who wish to invite us or wish to have training on the MTCS, we would be open to conduct any training in Sabah and Sarawak. Hopefully the MCO situation, the COVID situation improves soon, so that we can, undertake our activities as usual. But I would just like to emphasize that we are all in the same boat towards ensuring that our forests are being managed sustainably, and this requires support and commitment by everyone, all stakeholders involved. So I think we all need to support each other to ensure that our forests are managed properly and protected, and it's sustainable for the future generation. Thank you.
Thank you, Siti. And can I now invite Puan Amy, if you have any last words?
I'm good actually, but I think we can see growing awareness throughout this VPA certification, legality, and I think we should thank the core group of the FLEGT VPA negotiation team. Whether although the negotiation is stalled, but we have something in hand for Peninsula. We have MyTILAS, Sabah we have Sabah TILAS, and Sarawak we have STLVS. So yeah, I think if any of you have any question, maybe can just put forward to us. We try to answer it, and or any discussion need, maybe we can entertain that. That's all. Thank you, Mr. Yong.
Thank you, Puan Amy. And now, Encik Musa.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Yong. Thank you very much for inviting Policy Department for this virtual workshop. So, in our case, Sabah is fully committed in the implementation of SFM, and we have fully support the efforts to ensure to make the signing of VPA is a reality. So we are fully support to that, and by Sabah. Okay, thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Encik Musa. On behalf of all the panelists and myself, I would also like to thank MNS through this project that they have done for conducting this forest governance zone workshop to allow all of us the platform to be able to inform the general public who are interested in this subject matter about the work that we are doing at our respective places. Now, in my personal view, I always felt that, you know, in the past, whatever requirement that has been imposed upon us seems to be market-driven, be it the legality requirement under the EUTR, or for example, under the, you know, the US, the Lessee Act, or the Australia Timber Legality Prohibition Act, and so on. These are all market-driven initiatives to ensure that we do not sell illegal timber and so on. Including, of course, the certification that comes about is also, you know, the outcome of the Earth Summit, where, you know, there's a decision made then to use SFM as a platform, and of course, certification as a tool to ensure the implementation of SFM and so on. So it has always been market-driven and so on. But I always thought to myself in the sense that, more importantly, I think, you know, it should not always be looked at the market-driven initiative. It should now be looked at it as a national-driven initiative. The reason being, I think forest has been such a national treasure to us. It is so important in terms of the biodiversity that it contains and the ecosystem services that they can provide to all of us here in Malaysia. In fact, to us in MCCG, we are very passionate about forests. One point in time, we said that, you know, sustainable forest, sustainable future. Indeed, you know, the future of the country contingent upon the way we manage our forests and how they will continue to contribute to the well-being of our nation in the future. So with that, I think it's time for us to really look at forests so importantly, to protect them from illegal logging. Of course, in the process, if you can do that with good enforcement and so on, then you don't have a problem of having illegal timber. Then you don't have a problem of dealing with illegal trade and so on. So the need for us to really beef up wherever we are to do our bit to ensure that the forests and the associated environments are being well protected to ensure that indeed we have a sustainable future. Like it or not, I think sustainability should today be regarded as the core of every activity, every business. Because I think if the forest is not sustainable, and those of us, you know, who are involved in the timber industries and so on, the future business for them is also not going to be sustainable. So I think to talk about sustainability, to ensure the sustainable supply of the forest, not just for economic, not just for the timber, but all other services will then become very important. And here I think, as Siti has shared with you, we have MCCG is doing our level best. Our new vision is that we want to see Malaysia as a nation that truly appreciates and internalizes the full value of value and contribution of forests, not just for national sustainability, but also towards global sustainability. To me, I think if at the national level they cannot do that, then we cannot talk about sustainability at the global level. With that, I think I want to thank all the participants who have tuned in to join us in this webinar today. I look at the number, I think it's about 121 of you all. And of course, I think many of you are actually members of MNS and so on. You are very passionate about the environment as well. So here we definitely need support from one another to do what we can in terms of protecting, in terms of, you know, ensuring that these precious forest resources that we have in the country would continue to be not only beneficial for our generation, but also for the generation to come. With that, once again, I thank you everyone for your attention, for your participation in this workshop. And I also want to thank once again MNS for inviting all of us to be part of this workshop, which I think is very important in terms of us raising awareness of what we are doing and doing our bit in terms of ensuring the resources that we have not only is legally managed, but also sustainably managed.